The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
One of the greatest sellouts I ever had in my damn career was selling out Amarillo, Texas, with a black guy on top in Amarillo. That's Cowtown, you know. So Tiger Conway and myself sold it out, and I used to rib the shit out of Terry Funk. I said, "Hey, we sold out Amarillo, and there wasn't a funk on the damn card." I wonder how we did that. And well, I can tell you some stories about that old Funker boy guy. I mean, I love that Terry Funk. He was good. I'm a television producer by trade, and I did a cooking show with Funk. It's called Cooking Funk Style, and it's pretty cool. And then Vicky got sick and died, and then Terry went quick, and it's just sad. It's just really sad, guys. You know, to have, probably the greatest professional wrestler in the ring that ever lived. And another great one, it gets a lot of shit. But, Ric Flair was one of the best ever. And I don't care what anybody wants to say about Rick. Rick's a buddy of mine, and he's always been a friend of mine. And he gave his life for this business. And Terry Funk gave his life for the business. And you know what Terry Funk told me one time, guys? Everybody has a hero. Like you guys got a hero, and, everybody has got a hero. And I asked Terry Funk, I said, "Who's your hero?" He said, "I only got one hero." I said, "Who's that?" He said, "My dad, Dory Funk." I said, "No kidding." He said, "That's all I wanted to be, just like my father." And he was. He looked just like his dad. He worked like his dad. And, boy, if I ever had a kid, I wish to God he'd love to grow up and be like me. Wouldn't you? I mean, that's the greatest thing a father could ever hear.
Eddie, can you tell us more about I'm fascinated by the early time period you were with Roddy Piper. This is way before Roddy is Roddy Piper. What was he like?
No, he was always Roddy Piper. That's what you don't understand. No,
Okay.
he was Roddy Piper in Los Angeles. The world just hadn't discovered him yet. So he was Roddy Piper. And we used to go to this place, Zuki's. Johnny Rods, right?
Of course.
I was just to ask you, was Rods the reason Piper started getting over with the Jabba Rook gimmick?
Oh, hell no. I mean, Johnny was great with Jabba Rook. I worked with him with Jabba Rook, in my stable. But nobody got Roddy Piper over but Piper. And just like Eddie Mansfield, nobody got me over but Eddie Mansfield. And certain guys do that. You don't need help. You know what I mean? And that's the way you have to look at it. I mean, because you're an island to yourself. Even though you're surrounded by certain people, you're still an island. And so you got to get yourself over in the best way you can. And you take no prisoners. You don't have to be rude to the people around you. You just outshine them. You out-talk them. You outwork them. You outdo everything. And that makes you better than them. And you don't have to say anything. It just happens.
What was it like with the politics backstage for somebody? You seem and you always did seem on screen very, very confident. Was it like that backstage to like you said, you're all jockeying for position. So what was it like for you backstage back in the day?
Well, I had a lot of friends, man. We used to hang and bang and I just never got, into a lot of the politics of wrestling. I just knew it, and I knew how to position myself, and that's what I did. I positioned myself, and I did pretty well until I met Ole Anderson. That's where my career went down the tubes. and he couldn't get Ric Flair. Here's the deal, guys. You know what? Eddie Mansfield was the bearer of Ric Flair because he was protected by the Crockett's. Ole Anderson hated Ric Flair. Hated him. He was jealous of Rick because Ole couldn't work as good as Rick. He thought he could, but Ole, look at his matches. They're for shits. I mean, and he got in booking and all this other bullshit. But you know something? Ask Jerry Briscoe sometimes. What a piece of shit that guy was. Why do you think Jack and Jerry sold their shares of Georgia Championship Wrestling to Vince McMahon? Because he's an asshole, Ole Anderson was. And there's nothing about you can't say anything nice about that guy. I mean, he ruined more people and took food off of so many people's damn table. It's just a sad scenario. But he got his comeuppance. God got even with him.
Eddie, if I can ask, if I may ask, what did he personally do to you? Like, what happens once you get to Ole that you described that it was the downfall of your career?
You know what's really funny when you say that? Wahoo and myself were flying in from San Antonio to do TBS on Saturday mornings, and then I would fly to Detroit and do Cobo Arena for Eddie Farhat, the original Sheik, who I think the world of. Eddie Farhat was one of the greatest guys that ever walked the face of the earth, and greatest heel this business has ever seen. I'm just telling you. But I was in there and I was getting a shower because I had to go catch a plane and go to Detroit. And me and Wahoo were talking real quick, and Ole says, "Look, I want to start booking you." I said, "Booking me?" And he said, "I'm going to take 20% of your money." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "Where are you going to book me, Ole? I'm already booked every damn where." I said, he said, "Well, I got 7 other guys kicking back 20%. I said, "Well, I ain't the fucking guy that's going to kick it back." And so he said, "If you don't kick it back," he said, I'm gonna ruin your career. You will never work again." And I said, "You know something, Ole?" Right in front of Wahoo, I told him this. I said, "Let me tell you something, guy." I said, "If you do that to me," I said, "I'm going to go on national television and expose your ass." And I did. And the trouble is, Ole Anderson got to ABC and sent him to Vince. And Vince has never done anything to me to this day. And it was Ole Anderson. And I told that John Stossel, that piece of shit, that he screwed me royally on the whole deal. But it's okay.
So that's interesting, Eddie. I did not. All right, so we're just fans, so I kind of understand what you're saying there. Ole wanted to book you for us like an Andre the Giant with Vince McMahon Sr., right? He wanted to run.
Well, Andre the Giant, I am not. But
no, but you know what I mean, though. Like he was. Good.
He wanted. You can't compare me to the Giant, but anyway, it's like he wanted to take a guy like me and a Flair and some of the other guys like us and book us. I know Tommy Rich was kicking him money back and a bunch of other guys to stay on top. And so his little Georgia Mafia guys there, And so those things from the locker room. And Terry Funk told me, he said, "Don't you kick that son-of-a-bitch back money, ever." He said, "You're too good to do that." And I said, "Okay." And I told Wahoo. And then Wahoo told him, he said, he said, "He's my guy." And Ole looked at Wahoo and he said, "Not for long." But anyway, that's the shit you would go through, See, he couldn't get the Ric Flair, so he got Eddie Mansfield. And I'm glad he couldn't get the Rick. Really, when I look back at it, the son of a bitch, I would have had a hell of a career in wrestling. I had one until he did that to me. But you know something? He probably did me a favor, get me the hell out of the business. I'm still living and I'm still doing really well. And, I don't look back. I hate that son of a bitch. Yeah. But anything else with wrestling, I don't, I got nothing to say bad about it.
Eddie, were kickbacks commonplace? Like, I've never really heard it described this way, where somebody's like basically trying to extort money from you for further positive booking and shit like that.
Yeah,
Was this
they did
was
that.
this commonplace, or was this an old
Yeah, they did
special?
back in the day with the territories.
Really?
Yeah.
In many territories?
Well, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
like,
Hey.
you know Ron Fuller, Buddy
Yeah.